Hey guys, Scriptkeeper here with another video, and I wanted to give my take on this Leslye Headland interview with the Mary Sue. The Mary Sue, as far as I know about the Mary Sue, it's like a website and they talk about Star Wars and stuff. But they tend to have very differing views from me, but we'll see what we'll see about this interview. I've heard some funny things about it, so I want to check it out. So let's get into this here. So in this clip, she's asked like what is allowed in terms of like incorporating the EU into her stories or into Star Wars, and she says she basically filters everything through Pablo Hidalgo. He's like the guy who decides what they're allowed and not allowed to do, and so this is kind of just part of her answer here, or the end of her answer, where she's talking about Ki-Adi-Mundi.
So I don't know what went on with Chiari. I heard there was some drama.
It's the dumbest thing ever. It's about a birthday. But I was like, it's
Is
not
it
deep.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not about a birthday. Now, for me, again, like a lot of people got super upset about this, and at the end of the day, I'm perfect. If they want to change his birthday, whatever. Like, think of all the things that they have changed. Ki-Adi-Mundi's birthday, I'm not that worried about, but it's the reason they did it. They specifically sort of spat on, you know, the hardcore fans, right? Ki-Adi-Mundi, the Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years, and now he's hearing about this potential Sith killing Jedi, and they purposely made it him. So Leslye Headland's kind of acting like she doesn't know here. She's purposely spitting in the face of hardcore fans, because she could have picked anybody. They didn't have to be Ki-Adi-Mundi, but they purposely made him older in the prequels so that they could have him be the guy that hears this, knowing full well he says the line, the Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years, so it kind of makes him look like maybe he's pulling a cover-up in the prequels, which makes him look bad. So they knew what they were doing. So she's pretending to be this, oh, I'm just this stupid innocent, I don't know anything, blah, 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 blah. The other side of it is it's not just the birthday, it's the fact that, again, he says that line in the prequel trilogy. So the assumption has always been that there's no way that the Jedi had any idea that there was anything going on. And so that, therefore, anything that does happen, all of those Jedi have to die. If you make it into a cover-up situation, it's just another Disney make the Jedi look bad because we're moral relativists and we don't want absolute good and absolute evil like George Lucas said Star Wars is multiple times. So that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to a worldview being presented in Star Wars that isn't Star Wars, because Star Wars is good versus evil. So they want moral relativism in their own lives and in the world, and so now they're implementing it into Star Wars and using Ki-Adi-Mundi and making the Jedi look bad as one of many vehicles to do so. And that's what pisses people off.
But I was like, it's not deemed canon anymore. And I like looked that up and I was like, yeah, because it was like in a card and all this stuff. And I was like, listen, I know Leslye is like me and we love non-canon characters.
Yes, yeah. Non-canon canon is the best kind of canon.
We're like, how?
What does that even mean? Non-canon canon is the best kind of canon. Like, guys, these people don't give a single shit about you as fans. They don't. They don't care. I've been saying this for so long. I've been saying this since I started my channel and started doing reviews, whether it was Mandalorian or whatever. They don't care. They only care about themselves. They only care about their egos. They only care about their worldview being pushed in Star Wars. They don't care about fans. They don't. And like, so crying about it and getting all upset about it isn't the answer. The answer is to mock it. I mock them and their stupidity and their stupid stories. I mock them. That's the answer. Don't get upset. Mock them, because these people are narcissists for the most part, and they don't care about you. And so letting them upset you is what they want. They feed off of that. Like Stenberg's reaction should, to the criticism is to make a video and call you all bigots. Shinoy says she's going to completely ignore discourse online, doesn't care what fans have to say. I'm going to do my thing. Leslye Headland laughs about canon, thinks you're an idiot. They they don't care about you. So if you get upset about what they're doing, you're feeding them. They like that. They think it's funny. It's a joke to them. The whole thing's a joke. Even though the show, as far as the Nielsen ratings have now come out, it's failing. It's worse than Ahsoka. It's almost as low as Andor in terms of ratings. So they don't care. They just laugh it off because somebody above them saying, we don't care if we make money. We don't care. We just want to push our agenda. We just want to push what we believe and change Star Wars into what we want. So F the hardcore fans. We're going to bring in a new type of fan. Even though it's going to be a failure money-wise, we're going to do it anyway. So stop crying over this. Because they think that's funny when you cry. Remember when Hidalgo made fun of Star Wars Theory for crying over Luke coming back? They think you're a bunch of losers, man. They don't care about you. They think you're idiots. Like, that's literally the way they think.
They're gone. They're gone. Jason and Jaina, they're gone. Mara Jade's gone.
My twins.
It's so fun that they're gone. All you people that like them, losers. They're gone. They're gone because we don't give a shit. Like, guys, stop crying, man. Like, these people don't care.
Here's the light and here's the dark. They both kind of have that gray area.
That's so true. And it's definitely not a new trope to have, the bad twin and the good twin, like the light twin and the dark twin, and then they switch places and then they switch back. Like, that's a pretty, I would say, reliable way of telling a thematic story, utilizing twin characters.
Okay, so here she's literally telling you she used like a very, very well-used, fairly easy trope. Which again, that's all they do. They go with like the easiest thing they can because they can't think out of the box. And you guys know me if you've been following me for a long time. That's why I've been saying, like, the non-Jedi, the Kylo Rens and the Balin Skulls and all these people that wield a lightsaber and do everything Sith do and seek power, and yet they're not Sith just because the showrunner says they're not, because they can't think of another interesting villain. They can't write a villain that doesn't have a lightsaber and is different, like some of the ones we see in the EU, right? They can't do it. They don't have the ability. They don't have the ability to write a new interesting thing. So she goes with a trope that's been used a bazillion times, and she admits that.
But I will say, to answer your question, so much of that was a mandala. Like, as a writer, why you're doing something thematically. You can definitely justify, especially a choice like that one. You can also justify it character-wise, narratively-wise, personally, feeling bifurcated as a person, as a human, as a woman. Like, you can make all of those choices, but somebody has to actually do it. And I felt like Amandla, when she understood the breadth of what she would be doing, dug so deep into both of the girls.
That is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. She's a plank of wood. She has the same expression every scene. There's nothing there. And I'm not suggesting that Amandla Stenberg can't act. I don't know. It could very well be that Leslye Headland has been blessed with very, very good actors in the past that kind of overcame her crappy directing. That's very possible. So maybe it is her crappy directing. But I mean, I can't imagine as a director walking away from some of those scenes that they kept in the show, where she's literally making the same face throughout every situation, whether she's Osha or May or what's happening, people dying, not dying. I've never seen an actor in so many scenes use the exact same expression when something happened. So the idea that it's Amandla, she's the one fulfilling my dreams of my trope, my Joe Blow trope story we've seen a million times. It's Amandla. She's just a plank of wood.
Because we decided to cast fraternal twins, not just because Leia and Loren were so great, but I actually auditioned several identical twins, and it was, I cut them together in making the decision. And with identical twins, it was very difficult to tell them apart, really to track those types of the performances that you're talking about, the differentiation between the two of them.
Oh my gosh. It's really hard to tell the difference between identical twins. Oh my word. And then you went ahead and cast one person to play two people who's a plank of wood, and you literally, there's no difference. Like, what are you talking about? So first you cast fraternal twins as for the kids, meaning the reality of a fraternal twin is when they grow up to be adults, they won't be identical. That doesn't happen. They're fraternal. They look different. So you purposely cast fraternal twins because you were worried that the identical twins would look too much alike, because she just said identical twins look a lot alike. And then you cast one person to play both of them, essentially turning the character into an identical twin from a fraternal twin. But in that case, it wasn't hard to tell the difference, even though that's the exact same person. That it was hard to tell the difference between them, even though it's the exact same person. So your issue with them looking the same wasn't a problem with Amanda Stenberg, and then her acting literally is identical for both characters and makes the same faces. This is who directed this show, guys. Like, like, nothing she just said makes any sense. Yes, Leslye. Identical twins look the same. And I guess that made it hard for you to shoot the show, because they look the same, because you can't direct and make them do different things and act differently. And then you went ahead and used the same person, and she acts the same and doesn't act differently. So you literally fed your own problem anyway. What the heck? This person is crazy.
So, it was one of those things that I was like, okay, we do have this adult actor playing both roles, but if we don't have this differentiation between the two of them, I'm not sure we're going to understand how important the differences between them are. And that's something an adult actor can, especially if they're a genius like Amanda,
Oh my gosh, she's so stupid, dude. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. So you think we're so stupid as viewers that the only way we could differentiate them is by having them be two different, like, having them be fraternal twins? What are you talking about? You just write them different and direct them different. Is it, like, what are you talking about? What? And then again, you keep talking about Amanda Stenberg's acting. She's horrible in this show.
Well, that was my favorite thing about episode 5, was when May cuts her hair, and I'm like, girl, you still got that thing on your forehead. You move your hair. And
they could just move your hair. They could just move, and they'd be like,
huh.
She's like, it's okay. It's interesting. It plays out very interestingly in the next episode.
See, like, she doesn't care, you guys. She just does stuff. She literally laughs at the fact that it's so obvious that she's exposing herself as May. She's got the thing on her forehead, the tattoo on her forehead. There's no reason whatsoever why Soul shouldn't know right away who she is, and anybody else that's around. But she just does it anyway. And then laughs laughs about it. Ah, ha, 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 ha. I wrote the characters to be morons. Ha, 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 ha. Like, guys, she does not care at all. She put no effort into the show. Remember, this show took 4 years, and it's only 8 half-hour-long episodes that are barely a half an hour when you factor in credits and stuff. And it's this bad. So she never cared.
I don't know if it was the greatest idea, but she was definitely.
She was thinking, I got this. And I'm like,
yeah, we'll put it this way. She was thinking emotionally, she was definitely.
Oh, it's so cringe, man. Like, she's thinking emotionally. And how did it play out in the next episode? It didn't play out at all. Like, what are you talking about? There was no big thing. It wasn't like Soul was like, oh, she's made because I see her. Like, nothing mattered. Like, she's so crappy, dude.
Because I love a Wookiee. They're my favorite characters in all of Star Wars. And I was like, cool, this one's a Jedi. And then he died.
And it was like, bye, off screen death. The worst kind of death. Yeah.
Which the first time I watched that episode, I was like, oh, great, Kalnak is coming back the next episode. And because me and my roommate fully had missed the Kalnak was dead in the chair. And then I went, it was like, oh, he's gone. Like, I was like, I missed that he was sitting in the chair.
He's dead. He's dead, baby. He's dead.
Like, she says it with such, like, disdain. Even for the interviewer. Like, the interviewer's trying to convey, like, oh, everyone's really disappointed that you killed the Wookiee Jedi off screen. And she's just like, he's dead. Yeah, and he went the worst way off screen. Like, the arrogance is astounding. And this interviewer's, from a very supportive website, and she's supporting her in a lot of ways. But you can even tell in her voice, she's trying to be super nice, but it's like, she's essentially saying, why would you do something like that? That is such a disappointment for fans. Who cares about them? Who cares about stupid fans? Fans are stupid. They're idiots. Like, that's essentially what you're getting from Leslye Headland. Like, this is insanity that these people are able to make these shows. It blows my mind.
Because of the reveal of Manny, quote unquote. It was interesting working on the show. There were several writers, cast, crew. Well, we've got to preserve the surprise. This is a big reveal here, and I was like, I just feel like as a fan, if you announce that cast, which we did back in like 2 years ago or whatever it was. If I see Manny Jacinto as third on the call sheet, basically, I'm like secret bad guy. Like, I don't even need to know like what the log line to the show is. I'm like, oh right, so secret bad guy. He'll be secret bad guy, and something else will happen.
So here she's literally like championing mediocrity. Like, she's literally saying like, yeah, a lot of people on the set like, wanted it to be a secret. Like, there's some other stuff I didn't put the whole clip in, but wanted it to be more secretive. But then she admits that like the way that they marketed the show and revealed the cast and everything made it painfully obvious who the villain was going to be. And of course, I knew who the villain was going to be. If you follow me on Twitter, it was very predictable. So she's literally like, she's essentially in this interview, she's telling us that the show sucks in like a myriad of different ways, and then laughing about it. Like, as if it's funny and that who cares? Who cares? It's just Star Wars. And then at the same time saying she's like this huge fan. It doesn't make any sense. So, instead of making the villain like this big reveal, she's admitting that they basically Scooby-Dooed it before they even released the show, and then they totally Scooby-Dooed it in the second episode, and then in the fourth episode. So, like, she's admitting the show is crappy, guys. She's telling you in each of these clips how stupid everything was, and how no one cared, and how they laughed off all this stuff like it's no big deal. Like, these people are crazy to me that they're like so arrogant about it that they think that like they can just keep doing this.
So to me, it was not preserving the surprise was not very important. Like, what was important to me was preserving the character design. That was the thing that I was very concerned about getting out, was what Manny looked like once you saw him.
See, and there you go. So instead of worrying about the story and having his reveal be impactful, she's admitting to you and telling you in this interview that her main focus was how Manny looked. Like, think of how insane that is. And then think about the scene where he's bathing, right? And then if you listen to it for the hearing impaired on Disney Plus, it's all like, oh, and his muscles and his muscular back, and she peeked at his naked body and blah, 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 blah. Like, that was her focus, guys. So you're talking about gimp masks. You're talking about whips. You're talking about, nude scenes in Star Wars where she full-blown looks down at his crotch like 3 times. You're talking about, his muscles, and then she's telling you her main focus was how he looked, not the story and not the big reveal. It was how he looked was her number one focus. Like, guys, these people are hacks. They're telling you they're hacks to your face, and some people just won't wake up to it.
I didn't realize that Manny was going to be as the only word I can think of is like groundbreaking to me. Seriously, like I knew he was a great actor. I just didn't realize when I watched him and I watched him play the character the way he did. And he really built that character from the ground up. It's a very mysterious character on paper.
Like, listen to how she's talking. Like, she can't even think of words. She's essentially saying that Manny saved her crappy character. Like, she didn't realize. It's just, oh man, like, it's just, this is who directed the show. Like, it took her like 10 seconds to think of a word to describe his acting. Like, and his acting in it is really good. He's like one of the few positive things about the show has been his acting. He's unfortunately acting in a just total crap fest. He's acting in a show that's just, the material is really quite poor and terrible, but he's done a pretty good job of at least maximizing it to the extent that anyone could.
You would be able to follow and relate with, maybe not the murder, but you could definitely relate with what he's saying. When he says, I want freedom, they're like, well, yeah, everybody, how can you not want that? When he...
Wait. Hold on, Leslye. You're saying do you even know the context of the scene? He says he literally just murdered a bunch of Jedi and then says he wants the freedom to use the Force the way he wants to, not the way the Jedi want. In other words, he wants the freedom to be able to murder all these people. So no one is relating to that, Leslye. No one is relating to that. Do you think that's actually relatable? The whole context of the scene is he's saying he doesn't want to have the confines of the Jedi rules. He wants to be able to... He just murdered a bunch of people. He wants the freedom to be able to do what he wants, which includes murdering people. No one is relating to that. These people are... What the heck?
It says, the reason I'm doing this is because you say I can't exist. Like it's a very almost countercultural idea for...
Wait. So if somebody said to you, you can't exist in the context of you can't be a murderer, I'm supposed to relate to that? Like to him saying, I want to be a murderer? Like, did she even hear herself? Like, what? Like, oh my gosh. Like, no one is relating to that. Like, she says the reason he's doing it is because they say he can't. So he's a nutcase. No one's relating to this. Serial killers might be. Jedi says I can't be a serial killer, so I'm going to be one because you say I can't. And the audience is going to relate to that. Don't you understand, everybody? Don't you all relate to that? Oh, my word, bro.
I rewrote that scene so many times. I can't tell you that when I finally got You Brought Her Here, I was like, thank you, Jesus. Like, I was like, it's so important what the first few lines this person says, so that exactly what you're saying, like, you just get locked into his point of view.
No, you don't. I mean, you do, in a sense, like you do, but the idea that I, as the audience, am going to believe that it's Soul's fault because he brought her there, so then that justifies you murdering her? Leslye, no one is thinking like this. No one is like, yeah, you know what? It's Soul's fault because he brought her there, not the guy who literally just murdered her. Yeah, it's Soul's fault. No one is believing that. And if anyone is, maybe they need to check themselves because they maybe have the same mental problems that Leslye Headland has. Like, honestly, you guys, if you actually thought like that, like, oh yeah, it's Soul's fault that this guy murders people, then you have some problems. You need to go see a shrink.
So he ended up being essentially very anti-establishment, which is obviously what the rebels are and the resistance is in Star Wars normally. But once I locked into like, oh right, he's the voice of the yeah, the counterculture of this era.
See, she can't even bring herself to say that he's evil. She's trying to convince us as the audience that represents counterculture. So counterculture is murdering those who you disagree with. I mean, I hate to get political, guys, but this has happened in this world many, many times. It happened in Cuba. It happened in China. It happened in the USSR. It's happened in many other countries, Venezuela, where they don't want to agree. They don't want to line up with what I believe in. I'm going to murder them then. That's essentially what she's saying. And she can't bring herself to call it murder. She's calling him murdering all the Jedi a counterculture. So I think that says everything we suspected about her worldview. I think we just got the answer to that. Right? There you go. So it's not bad what he did. It was countercultural. Way to go, Leslye. This isn't Star Wars at all. This is agenda pushing. And she's admitting it very clearly.
I don't know. Those were the things that I was interested in. And killing Carrie Ann off, so much of that was about just get ready because the Jedi are going to take some L's and people are going to die. And especially Jedi who have experienced, interactions with Sith on this show are going to die. So spoiler alert.
People are dying.
People are dead.
Yeah, and going back to my last point, like, look at the way she talks about the idea of people dying. Like, I know it's a show, right? So we don't read too much into it, but it's like, ha 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 ha. I don't think she has a lot of empathy, and I think her worldview reflects that, and her worldview that she's sort of revealing in this interview. And I suspect that's because she's been through some form of trauma. And I'm not trying to put my psychologist hat on here or anything like that, but typically when someone has gone through trauma, especially as a child, as they become adults, they lack empathy for others. So the idea that she wouldn't care about the fans, that she wouldn't care about all types of things, it's no surprise. She doesn't empathize with people. I don't think. That's just my take. I could be wrong, but that's what it seems like. But just laughing, killed off Carrie Ann Moss, everything's funny, everything's a joke, nothing matters. These are pretty sociopathic responses to some of these questions, guys. I'm just saying.
So OSHA is going to be a different tactic. Like, what does OSHA want? And what does she want? More than her present moral code would allow. What would her present moral code crumble under if she was offered? And I think for OSHA, it's something more emotional. And I think if you've been watching the show, close enough, I think you'll know where that's headed.
So if you've been watching the show, you know where this is headed. So first of all, I at no point thought that it was an emotional thing with her. She wanted to be a Jedi. She was actually not emotional. When her sister was going nuts when they were kids, she was the one that was remaining calm and just talking and trying to express herself. Every time, even when they met each other later in the show as adults, OSHA's pretty calm. OSHA could have stunned her and purposely missed when she first saw her. So OSHA's not emotional at all. And certainly the acting shows no emotion. Like I said, it's a plank of wood. So there's no reason for the audience to even remotely think that it's an emotional thing. But then she's like, oh, if you've been paying attention. So basically it's a lust thing. That's what it is. It's a lust thing. That's why she did the whole naked scene, all that stuff that apparently has made parents very upset. I know my kids aren't watching this show, but anyway. So he's seducing her with lust, essentially. That's a big part of it. I mean, so far that's the biggest part of it. So anyway, this isn't Star Wars. This is the Leslye Headland fanfic version of Star Wars.
It felt like the real mystery was, again, we know they did something. She's murdering them. Mm-hmm. So we already know that. So the question is how? What happened? It's not, oh, wow, you didn't see that coming, as much as it's, yeah, but as we're
So once again, it's, the murdering is justified because such and such happened. She's really into the, like, justified murder perspective. Which, again, as we've seen throughout this interview, when you start analyzing what she's saying, it's pretty clear where she's coming from. So we'll see. We'll see what the justification is.
going back to your question about the twins and the theme of that. You're going to see two sides of almost every character. Almost every character has two sides, as we know. I mean, that's all what all Star Wars is about, right? Like, there's light and dark in everybody, and it's all about the balance of that. And in my opinion, the High Republic is a world that's out of balance. It's that there's just too many Jedi, and they may be balanced individually, but their power is not.
And again, she's wrong. She doesn't know Star Wars. George Lucas said it in an interview in 2010. He said it in several other interviews that the Jedi are good. They're peacemakers. They're the good guys. The Sith are the bad guys. And balance in the Force is light side dominance. And these people are hacks. They don't know Star Wars. She's literally saying that there needs to be more bad guys because there's too many good guys. Like, that's not Star Wars. Like, they're turning it into, again, moral relativism, justifiable homicides, my worldview. You don't agree with my worldview, so I'm justifiably going to murder you. This is literally what she's pushing, guys. This is insane. And so I'm actually glad that the naked scene happened and that parents are no longer letting their kids watch this show, because that's the underlying theme it's trying to promote, right? It's a culture change thing. It's a culture war thing. They've made it abundantly clear since they bought it they were going to do this type of thing. I didn't know that they take it this far. And it's not as subtle as I think they hoped it would be, at least to those of us that can think and see and hear. And this interview clearly expounds on that. So I'm kind of glad now parents aren't going to let their kids watch it and get those sort of underlying themes into their brains that morals are relative, because they're not. There's no justification for murdering a whole bunch of people. And George Lucas said that this is a good versus bad scenario, that he's using themes and good versus evil that go back, that are timeless, he says in the interview. So this is nonsense. This show is absolute bubkiss. This is the worst Star Wars I think ever made. I've been hesitant to say that because there's been so much bad stuff, but this is the worst. This is the absolute worst, and this is coming right from the showrunner's mouth, that this was the plan, and it's just awful. I mean, I can't say I'm surprised, but I kind of am, actually, that it runs this deep.
And I do think it's kind of fun to have people like yourself be like, they killed Kalnaka, and then be like, baby, we got you. You're okay.
And then it's the way she talks, baby, we have to. Like, is it just me, or do people with this moral relativist worldview always have this sort of arrogance? I mean, this interview's a disaster. There you go, guys. There's the breakdown. I've gone through it. I don't need to say anything more. Let me know in the comment section what you think. This is a total disaster of a show. This is the worst Star Wars show ever. By far. Not even close. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. It always helps the channel. And feel free to check out anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.